Welcome back. My name is Vern, and tonight on JW Night Talk, we will be talking about the Constitutional Act, the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedom, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and the Declaration on the Elimination of all forms of intolerance and of discrimination based on religion or belief. And then we're going to look at JW.org and see what they say about the United Nations and how they use the United Nations. Now, going back to the Constitution of Canada, I'm Canadian, so that's why I'm talking about the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Now, we'll put that on the screen here. And when we think of our country that we live in, every country has some kind of a charter of rights or a bill of rights. And in each country's constitution, you will see that there's freedoms of religions and of beliefs. Now, in the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, it says, whereas Canada is founded upon principles that recognize the supremacy of God and the rule of law. So in Canada here, they're saying right in the first opening statement that they take into consideration God and the rule of law. So therefore, we swear on the Bible when we go to court and so forth. And therefore, I would think, why couldn't we use a certain amount of the Bible? The Bible does talk about this, in fact. Now, guarantee of rights and freedoms. Rights and freedoms in Canada, the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms guarantees that the rights and freedoms set out in it, subject only to such reasonable limits prescribed by the law, can be justified. So, number two, without going too far, number two, everyone has the following fundamental freedoms. A, freedom of conscience and religion. B, freedom of thought, belief, opinion, and expression, including freedom of the press and other media of communication. C, freedom of peaceful assembly. And D, freedom of association. Now, when we look at number two, the fundamental freedoms, the Jehovah's Witness religion breaks all of them. It breaks A, B, C, and D. And let's look at it. Freedom of conscience and religion. So this Jehovah's Witness cult, let's be clear about this. It is a cult because it fits the BITE model of cults. And it's about giving allegiance to the governing body. So you don't have freedom of conscience and you don't have freedom and religion. So religion is my belief. So I'm a Jehovah's Witness. I'm either raised a Jehovah's Witness or I'm in the Jehovah's Witness religion. And one day I decide that, you know what, the blood transfusion doesn't make sense, by abstaining from blood, dying over that. That doesn't make sense. I cannot prove that from the Bible. So I decide I want to have freedom of conscience and freedom of religion. Perhaps I want to choose another religion, or perhaps I want to just worship God on my own and I want to quit going to the Kingdom Hall. Now, all of a sudden, I am discriminated, slandered, and shunned by everyone, including my own kids. And that's how the Jehovah's Witness religion works. So there's no fundamental freedoms once you're involved in the cult, and you are told in the cult and programmed within the cult that everything outside of the cult is Satan's evil system, and it's evil. And we're going to cover that on our live tonight. So stick with us. So the freedom of conscience and religion, you don't get that inside this religion. You don't get the freedom of thought and belief and opinion and expression, including the freedom of press. In fact, Jehovah's Witnesses went to tell their people not to go on YouTube or not to talk about the religion to the media, or you will be dealt with and disfellowshipped. So freedom of thought and belief and opinion is not allowed in that religion. And C, freedom of peaceful assembly. Well, If you have an alternate belief and you wanted to speak out, you would be forced, several brothers would group around you and force you out of the kingdom hall. So you don't have the freedom of peaceful assembly within the Jehovah's Witness. It's only if you conform to their beliefs. And number D is freedom of association. So I now, on this side of the fence, want to associate with my family, my daughter, my son. I cannot associate with them. I cannot associate with relatives. I cannot associate with even friends, close friends. But the family is the worst, the breaking up of the family. So the freedom of association, we lose all of that when we are in that religion, and then if we want to have a freedom of speech. So when I look at the Constitution, the Jehovah's Witness religion breaks the Constitution in half. And that's our fundamental freedoms. This is what we have been fighting for. But it's interesting how Jehovah's Witnesses use these laws for their benefit. But then, the golden rule says, do unto others as you do to them. No, no, no. They just are harsh towards ones that don't believe in their way. And so I'm an example. I don't believe in their method of thinking. And so now I am shunned, I am discriminated, I am called demonized. And Jehovah's Witnesses have publicly went around and went to my own family and told my own family not to associate with me because I am demonized, just because I have a different way of thinking than they do. So this is how the religion works. This is what we're fighting for. We have a petition in our video description to stop treating these religions as charities in Canada because they do not conform to our Constitution, among other things. Now, we're going to take this a bit further. We're going to look at the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the United Nations, peace, dignity, equality on the healthy planet. And we're not going to get into this too deep. But if we go into Article 2, we don't have to go too far. Article 2, just like in our Constitution in Canada, it says everyone's entitled to all the rights and freedoms set forth in this declaration without distinction of any kind, such as race, color, sex, language, religion, or political or other opinion, national or social origin, birth or status. So again, within the Jehovah's Witness religion, we have no opinion. We have no such. We are disfellowshipped, discriminated, slandered. They do not fit Article 2 at all because they are a cult, and the world is trying to treat this cult like a religion, and it's not a religion. It is responsible for the deaths of thousands upon thousands of people each year due to their no blood transfusion rule that they have grasped out of thin air. And we have done videos on this. There is no scriptural proof for their blood transfusion doctrine at all. And that is why none of the other religions follow it, except this destructive cult. So we have to take that into consideration and realize that, folks, that we are dealing with a cult. And if we're Jehovah's Witness, we have to admit that. One of the hardest things to admit is that I'm in a cult. Now, we're going to take a look at the United Nations, a declaration on the elimination of all forms of intolerance and of discrimination based on religion or belief. And we're going to apply this right back to the Jehovah's Witnesses. So the General Assembly, that's United Nations, and they're going through this, they give this whole preamble at the start. So we're going to get right into it. Article 1, everyone shall have the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. And this right shall include freedom to have a religion or whatever belief his choice, and freedom either individually or in community with others and in public or private to manifest his religion or belief in worship, observance, practice, and teaching. So that means I could go to the Kingdom Hall. I could talk, I don't quite believe in what the governing body teach. This is kind of what I believe. I should be able to get up and give a public talk and talk like that. But you cannot do that in the Jehovah's Witness religion because no one has freedom of thought. No one has freedom of conscience. and no one has freedom of a religion. So the Jehovah's Witness religion does not fit one aspect of Article 1. Number 2, no one shall be subject to coercion, which would impair his freedom to have a religion or belief of his choice. So that's what Jehovah's Witnesses do. They use coercion. They announce your name. You no longer agree with them, so everyone shuns you. It's coercion. They put you in solitary confinement. You have no association. You are out there on your own. It's coercion. They break number 2. Number 3, freedom to manifest one's religion or belief may be subject only to such limitations are prescribed by law and necessary to protect public safety, blah, blah, blah. So, number 3, freedom to manifest one's belief. You do not have a freedom to manifest your own belief if you're in the Jehovah's Witness religion. You can only manifest their belief, the governing body's belief. And that's it. That's the rules. Article number 2. No one shall be subject to discrimination by any state, institution, group of persons, or persons on the ground of religious or belief. And what do Jehovah's Witnesses do? The governing body has set the religion up to shun from an institutional level on a worldwide scale through groups of people on the grounds of my beliefs. So I'm raised as a Jehovah's Witness. I'm in this religion, and I have a different belief. I don't no longer believe that blood transfusions are bad. In fact, I don't want to sign their little card, their little paper. I am now shunned. I am now disfellowshipped because I don't go along with their belief. You see, we know this is a cult. It doesn't fit any of these articles. It goes on number 2, for the purpose of present declaration, the expression intolerance and discrimination based on religious or belief means any distinction, exclusion, restriction, or preference based on religion or belief or having as its purpose or effect nullification or impairment of recognition, enjoyment, or exercise of human rights and fundamental freedoms on an equal basis. So we lose all of that if we no longer agree with one aspect of the religion, like blood transfusions we're using as an example. So if we no longer agree with that, then we lose all of our association within the religion. If we work with ones in the religion, it's going to change. It's going to change our working environment because we're now looked at as outside, as apostate. And once we become apostate or we do no longer agree with them, we are worse than death itself. We are categorized as very evil. Okay, we're going to move on to article number 3. Discrimination between human beings on the grounds of religion or belief. Well, is this not what shunning and disfellowshipping is? Absolutely. It breaks article number 3. So, article number 4 talks about states taking effective measures to prevent and eliminate discrimination on the grounds of religious belief. And this is what we're shooting for, is stop treating these as religions. They're not religions. They don't help people. They print magazines. This Jehovah's Witness religion just prints magazines. It does not help people. If someone is in need, they send them to the food bank. That's where they send them. The Salvation Army might be running it. The Catholic Church might be running the food bank. But Jehovah's Witnesses do not have a program to help their own people even. So they're not a religion. They shun, they disfellowship. If you have a different idea and you want to exercise freedom of speech, freedom of thought, freedom of choice, freedom of religion, you cannot do that in the Jehovah's Witness religion. It's a cult. And we're treating these cults as religions, and it's wrong. So all states have to make efforts to enact or rescind legislation where necessary to prohibit any such discrimination and take all appropriate measures to combat intolerance on the grounds of religions and beliefs in this matter. So that's what has to happen. These states, these countries, the governments, they have to just shut down this Jehovah's Witness religion, quit treating it as a charity, and recognize it's a cult. So that's the first step, just like Norway. Article 5. The parents, or as case may be, the legal guardians of a child, have the right to organize life within a family with their religion or belief. So if you're a Jehovah's Witness child and you're going to school and you decide that you no longer want to go to the Kingdom Hall because you believe that a blood transfusion could save your life, and you go home and tell your parents that, you are in trouble. If you're a baptized child, you could get disfellowshipped for not following their belief. Number 2, every child shall enjoy the right to have access to education in the matter of religion belief. Not with Jehovah's Witnesses. They will not allow their children to expand on their current knowledge, to look at other religions, to make a choice. They are coerced, they are guilted into this religion. And if the kids go against it, the kids will be disfellowshipped eventually. And the parents won't even talk to the kids. This is how destructive this religion is. It destroys relationships and families. Number 3, the child shall be protected from any form of discrimination on the grounds of religion or belief. Not within Jehovah's Witnesses. The children are disfellowshipped if they don't believe. That's a fact. Happens every day. Number 4, in the case of a child who is not under the care either of his parents or legal guardians, or other proof of the religion, the best should be guiding principles, yes, but not in the Jehovah's Witness religion. Stephen Lett, the governing body, uses examples on his talks like children are evil. And this is how he talks. And we can get into all of this, but it's all over the internet. We've done videos on this, and this is just the way this religion works. Number 5, practices of a religion or belief in which a child is brought up must not be injurious to his physical or mental health or full development. Now, we've had videos where it talks about brain damage. If you're raising your child and you're teaching your child that everyone's going to get roasted at Armageddon, you are causing your child to have a brain malfunction. This is a problem in the brain. It's cognitive dissonance. I'm supposed to love everyone, but yet I'm supposed to agree that everyone's supposed to get roasted. You see, as a Jehovah's Witness, we're taught that we are like little judges. We walk around the neighborhoods and we judge people in our door-to-door records. It's a very destructive cult. So we just have to realize that. Article 6. It goes on to talk about, in accordance with Article 1, the provisions and to worship assembly and so on and so forth. Well, as if you go outside of the Jehovah's Witness religion, you're not allowed to assemble no more. You're kicked out of the assemblies. You're kicked out. If you're an apostate, you can't walk into these facilities. So there's nothing there, and that's only because you disagree maybe with blood transfusions. Maybe that's the only thing you disagree with. So there's no freedom of anything in the Jehovah's Witness religion. So the declaration is very clear all the way through the articles on stopping these types of cults for infringing upon us as religions, trying to fraudulently be out there saying, hey, we're a religion, we're helping people, and we're out there doing good, when they're not. They're a printing company. They're buying up extra property, getting tax-free benefits, and they're growing their organization. So the declaration on the elimination of all forms of intolerance and of discrimination based on religion or belief, we must push forth and keep advocating that as ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. In fact, one of the things I did recently here is I went to our own Constitution, and you can actually write in, do a letter, and they have forms that you fill out, and you can send that in. The emails are right there, and you can tell what happened and how you were discriminated and how this doesn't fit into the Constitution. So that's what I did here in Canada. I'll see if I get a reply back. We'll see where it goes. One of the things that is in our Constitution here in Canada for these types of things is they want 1 year. So when was the last time you were shunned or discriminated? Was it 1 year? Well, Really, we could argue it's every day. If I were to phone my daughter, she wouldn't talk to me because I'm shunned. So every day I'm being discriminated. But if they want to know when you were first discriminated, um, that could be a while. For me, it was 10 years ago. And then I may not fit their 1 year clause because everything's 10 years ago. But what if the brainwashing is so thick that I just woke up a year ago or a few months ago? Really, this is a wake up process. You see, all of these things I believe have to go in front of, eventually get in front of the Supreme Courts. And we really have to take a close look at this religion because the depth of the indoctrination is deep. And the 1 year rule doesn't apply because sometimes we may leave the religion and we're just in this cloud, this fog for years. And sometimes we never wake up. But eventually we wake up and then we want to do something, but it's too late because all of the time limitations are gone. So I think we have to fight for that. We have to fight for the fact that within this cult, our minds are so clouded that it's only when we wake up that we know that we have to fight this cult. And sometimes that's many years later. So, folks, this is what we want to talk about today. We're going to look at Jehovah's Witnesses and what they think of the United Nations. And they have mixed feelings. And we all know that as ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. So going back to 1985, if you go to JW.org and plug in the UN, that's all I did. It says the UN has it united the nations. So it's a negative article. You go into the article, can it bring peace? Can it last? It's a very negative article. And we all know that the Watchtower speaks down upon the United Nations, once formerly the League of Nations. The Awake here in 1985, the UN, one man's vision. And they talk about that and how it's just this man. Then they talk about again the UN, God's way to peace. Well, no, they're going to say that it's not God's way to peace. God has a different way, as if they know. So then, if you go to the recent stuff on their news, they're talking about how the UN is helping them. So the UN calls on Russia to release Brother Alushkin. Then they got UN committee rights of Brother Terry violated, and so they're going. See the Jehovah's Witnesses, the religion is going to the UN for help. Oh, please help us, please help us. And then when the UN turns their back, oh, you dirty scoundrels, God doesn't approve of you. You guys are nonsense. But then when they need help, you go down here. Here help the UN Human Rights Committee decisions. Will Turkmentan implement the UN? So they're questioning this. They're going to the UN for help. The UN Human Rights Committee sides with Jehovah's Witnesses in Azerbaijan, wherever that is. Effort to oust Vaticans from UN. So here they're going on and how talking about how the UN is helping them, and then when they can, they'll talk about the UN being bad up top in their articles, their Wake articles. So the Jehovah's Witnesses have really a mixed flavor on the UN. And isn't that what cognitive dissonance is? On one hand, you're supposed to love the people, and on the other hand, you're supposed to hate the people. How can you do both? You see, it doesn't make sense for me. And that's why I couldn't stay in the religion. I couldn't go up north and pioneer to indigenous communities and find that there's commonalities in their beliefs, that their beliefs are actually quite good and how they keep the community together. 13 rules they have, and it's the same as reading the whole Bible, but it's on one piece of paper. And isn't that exciting? You take that to your service overseer and show him that, and he gets up and he does this the most disgusting talk on and how to stay away from these communities. They're alcoholics, they're drunks, and the discrimination that goes against some of the communities that might have a good teaching from their indigenous beliefs. But yet that's competition to the Bible. It's competition to Jehovah's Witnesses. And Jehovah's Witnesses, when they come into a community, it's like colonialism. If you are not a Jehovah's Witness, you're from Satan's system, and everything is demonized. And that's how they get people into their religion. They put them on high so that the people feel better. They feel more powerful. They feel greater. And everyone wants to feel greater. Everyone wants to feel powerful. So it feels good to be a Jehovah's Witness because I have the truth and I know the truth, and the truth will set me free. This is what they teach. But they taught us the wrong thing. They taught us that the truth is the watchtower, and that the watchtower is the truth, and that the watchtower will set us free. But that's not what those scriptures mean. Is Jesus' blood will set us free. You see, that's the real meaning of that. But anyways, folks, when we talk about our constitutions and the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, we talk about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the Declaration on Elimination of all forms of intolerance and discrimination based on religion or belief. We find the Jehovah's Witness religion guilty on all accounts. And folks, it's up to us to raise our voices, bring this out. There's a Be Free 2023, October 31st protest at the White House in the US. We have a petition to stop treating these organizations as charities here in Canada. So please help us and join this fight as we raise our voices looking for a time where we're not discriminated, where we can associate once again with our family and friends. So thanks again, folks. I hope you enjoy the live. And in the live, we're gonna cover some more interesting material. So we'll see you next time. Bye for now.